Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I'm so sorry.
This time I'd like to call to order the caucus meeting for October 11th. Shannon, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mr. Post?
Here.
Mrs. Labby?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Present.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mr. Barr?
Okay. Are there any presentations?
There are none.
Okay, items for discussion. Mr. Bellin.
I wanted to have a discussion about potentially looking at and reviewing our zoning codes. There have been several issues over the past several years where our zoning codes have been called into question. And I think we have an opportunity at this point. We have a new law director, we have a new administration. For whatever reason, previous administrations have chosen not to. But I see no reason that we shouldn't take the opportunity and really kind of look at our zoning codes to make sure that they're serving our city. I'm not quite sure exactly what that entails. I want to make sure that they are recorded properly. I want to make sure that they are followed properly. I want to make sure that they are, doing what a zoning code is supposed to do. And so really, I've talked to several of my colleagues up here. I really just kind of wanted to open this up, see if this is something that we had an appetite to do, if you agreed with me that it's time that it probably should be done. And then if you do, then I will take the ball and we'll kind of figure out what the next steps are. Any comments, questions, concerns?
Okay, Mr. Scafidi.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree, Greg. And the law director, Mr. Lizana, and I, we had discussions about that, and I know that you were going to bring that up tonight. And, we were talking about ways that we could do that and what the next steps would be. And so, depending on how the rest of council feels, I think that's a great idea. I think it's long overdue, and we need to do it. Like you said, we've got the administration, the law director. As long as council's on board, I think that would be a good idea. I guess I'm going to stop there, but I agree. I think we should.
Ms. Walker?
Yes, I just want to say I think it's a great idea. It's long overdue, and I think we should do this as soon as possible.
Okay. Ms. Labby? Mr. Post?
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that this and anything else that is not anything that's in question needs to be looked at. And clearly there's been comments about it. And if things aren't 100% perfect, they need to be.
Yep.
So, of course.
Okay. Mr. Fair?
You and I have talked about it. Mr. Scafidi and I have talked about it. I've talked to the law director about it. I think the first step would be to make sure that what we show as the code is actually with the code that was voted on. And then look for any changes that we want to do to work through with the planning commission afterwards. But I think we need to review first and then see where we're at and find out what steps, because I'm not sure that we know what we don't know yet. Mm-hmm. So.
Yes, I guess Mr. Vizana or Mr. Merritt, can you I don't know, can you give us some options? I'm not quite sure. I know it's been several years, decades since anything like this has been done. It's not been done since I've been here. I know that.
We talked, and it's going to take some time, but I think probably the best way to go and talking with the law director is looking at a consultant to come in and just go over the whole code. And because somebody's going to have to sit and do that, and they do have consultants that'll do that. And that's probably the best way, just like, we look at everything else that we have examined here, and just have it examined, and let's see where what the good parts are and what the bad parts are, what needs to be changed, and what's, like you said, what's up to date, what's accurate, what isn't accurate. And we need to bring it into, we need to get one code that we look at and say, this is the 2023 code for the city of Twinsburg. And this is something that, and in a little while, I'm going to have a presentation here, a short presentation showing what I've been talking about transparency and how I want to open City Hall up, and I want to get the residents' input, and I want to, give them our input. And this is something that when you see this presentation, I think this would fit great. It's perfect for the time to do this and to look at that and to be able to communicate through this. You'll see it. It's called Together Twinsburg, and it's a great way to do it.
Cool.
We'll get the residents' feedback. We'll be able to put out there what we find, what the findings are, and so on and so forth. So, Matt, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I would just echo the mayor's recommendation and just ask this council if the staff could take a look at presenting some options that, relate to the idea, of bringing a consultant in to review the code to achieve, I was taking some notes here, to achieve the goals that you've identified. And then we can bring that back to the council to take a look at, and the mayor and myself and some staff members can present a course that you could consider officially authorizing to kick into gear a full review of the zoning code.
Okay.
So.
Not to put you on the spot, do you have any idea how long that process of bringing options might take?
I don't know. I think we could probably come up with some pretty good options in the next month or so.
Okay. Okay.
And we won't obviously have a full review
Right.
finished.
Okay.
But
All right.
yeah, I think it wouldn't be too aggressive to say within 4 or 5 weeks we could have
Okay.
an idea back, if and hopefully sooner, frankly.
Okay.
Because this is just step one, and we want to get that moving as quickly as possible so we can start. If it involves employing consultants, we can get them reviewing the code. We can also begin public outreach, to reach out to all of our residents and citizens to get their comments. I mean, the process itself takes a good amount of time, as the mayor said. But let's get it moving as quickly as we can.
Okay. Good. Thank you. That's all I had, Mr. Ferry. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other items for discussion this evening? Okay, hearing none. Shannon, can you call the first person for public participation?
Sure. For the caucus meeting, the first person we have is Blake Mumford.
Good evening, Mayor and distinguished members of the Twinsburg City Council. It's my first time being here, and it's a pleasure. I'm representing the Whispering Woods 2 Homeowners Association. It's the development on the corner of 82 and, if I can someone blank, Chamberlain Drive. And I noticed on the agenda is to be discussed for the public roads and lands to be turned over to the city for maintenance. And there's one item of concern that we have as an HOA regarding the lands. So much has been done, right? It is so close. But the ground preparation previous to planting the grass around the Whispering Woods sign there at the corner wasn't done. There's rocks, there's pipes, metal poles, the fence post that used to hold up the Whispering Woods development sign.
So the developer that built your section of Whispering Woods
Yeah.
didn't complete all the landscaping? Is that what you're saying?
And depends on how you want to define complete. The grass seed was applied.
You got this?
The grass grew partially. It was done late summer. So it's thin and sparse, but the main point that we have is the ground was not prepared there. And if you look at it close at all, it's not naturally beautiful like Twinsburg shows on our sign. And as the corner of our great city, coming from the Macedonia side, it doesn't represent us well. So it's not a huge thing for the city. We have 2 quotes that we're facing as homeowners that we believe strongly enough to invest in, $7,500, $6,500 roughly between the two. So average them at $7,000 to fix. But I don't want to ask my homeowners to pay that $250 a person to go back and level out the land, remove the debris, and replant. I think the developer owes the citizens of the city and the homeowners of this association that type of prep work, right? So in terms of the caucus, I just want to make sure this is relevant to what we're deciding. The roads are good, the lights are good, the trees that are planted in the mow strips are great, right? We're happy, but just that land was not prepared.
Go ahead.
So your developer would still have a bond with the city, I would assume, that would be why we have a bond, so that if there are things that aren't done or they're not completing, that there's a fund to take that money out of, if I'm not correct.
So I had talked with
Hi, Karen.
and walked the property.
Okay.
today, And before we were voting on the dedication. And I tried to get in touch with Amy and Lynn, it was late today. I came to City Hall and they were gone, but it was late. So, we did have a meeting last year when the HOA first had contacted me with Ted and Amy and Lynn, and I just wanted to make sure the things that we needed to be addressed were finished before they kind of close up.
My question to you was, what was the developer's response when you, I'm assuming you questioned him, why have you not fixed this?
Yeah.
And his response was what?
I didn't get a response to that initial email. There'd been done some work on some other common areas, maybe where the homeowners had re-damaged something or the builder had re-damaged something that the developer had left appropriate. But this is one area that has never been addressed or has never been discussed after being brought up.
Mr. Buer.
Yeah. Mayor Scafidi?
Mr. Mumford, have
Yes.
you talked to anybody here? Have you talked to the engineer? Have you talked to anybody here in City Hall?
Probably 2 visits and 4 emails over the past year, not solely on this. There was a broad range of topics. Just, it's a new development, right? You're going from scratch
Yeah.
to complete.
And you're talking along 82
Yeah, the corner of 82 and Chamberlain.
in Chamberlain, okay. What I would suggest then is that we pass on this tonight, we don't vote on it.
Okay.
I will get a hold of Amy Moore tomorrow, the engineer, and if you can, they probably should have your number here somewhere, but
Yeah.
leave me your number if you would tonight, or Karen,
I
if you
have
have
the
it.
number.
And I'll make sure that you and Amy talk and get connected, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you, sir.
So, but you're in Whispering Woods 2,
Yeah.
and I thought we were working on Whispering Woods 3 this evening.
Yeah, we debated that for a long time
91,
internally.
2022 is 3.
So there was 3 phases of the development,
I
but just 2 associations. So this is the 3rd phase of Whispering Woods. Yet the first 2 are 1 HOA. We're
Okay.
HOA number 2.
But that's
So
what we
does
were
your
looking at.
HOA cover 3?
Yes, and only 3.
That's the second.
And
That's fine.
For the third
Okay.
phase. Okay.
And that common area is for everyone in the whole development?
It's just on the corner of Chamberlain and 82.
Well, the sign, but what about the pond and everything that I looked
We
at?
claim it as ours. Yeah.
So that's 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're set to maintain it
Because that's where the grass was sparse there.
as well.
Right.
Yep.
Mr. Fury, just for clarification, it's listed as an emergency, but it's one of those that we're actually going to read 3 times and then pass as an emergency on the 3rd vote.
I see that in the notes.
So
but-
it's not, it wasn't slated to be
So we're
voted on
talking
this
about
evening,
91, 2022.
Just to be clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Uh,
So do we have your contact
Yes,
information? Yeah,
I
thank
have
you.
I have it also.
Okay.
Next, we have Lynn Clark.
Just a real simple question. Why is it all y'alls are not interested in hearing the citizens' voices? Why are you fighting us so much to put an issue that so many people signed that petition in front of the voters? Now, one of the things that we entrusted the people we voted for is to make decisions. And it is to reflect the values and desires of the people of the community for which you all serve. So, back in 1906, a gentleman by the name of Francis Galton conducted an experiment. He asked hundreds of people at a county fair, how much you think this steer weighs? And amazingly enough, he did a little statistical analysis, and at the end of this, he discovered the real answer, the weight of that steer, was within 1 pound of what everybody guessed. Now, why do I bring this up other than, talking a little bull, right? This is to illustrate the value of allowing everybody to vote. Get everybody's opinion. It's going to be far closer to the conscience of this city than just a couple of people that voted in favor of this development on Old Mill Road. Now, when you think about what a colossal mess that is and will become, that's science. And it is going to be in direct conflict with this motto the city has, keeping Twinsburg naturally beautiful. So why do you continue to fight your citizens? Well over 1,000 people signed that petition, and they were vehement in their discussions with us. There were very few that we approached that said, no, I don't want to sign it. Thank you for your time.
And last, we have Steve Hummel. And as you guys come up to the podium, can you please state your name, just for the record, too, please?
Steve Hummel, 2500 Old Mill Road. And I heard it said that a statement made, after a couple of weeks, people just forget. People have a tendency to forget. I'll tell you one thing. I'm an elephant. I'm not a political elephant, and I don't care if you're a political elephant or a political donkey. I won't forget what happened here with Old Mill Road. I'll never forget how the city let the citizenry down for a developer. Now, there are so many examples that they do not follow the code of our city, this city, the citizen city. It begs the question, why? I came up here, and with my professional expertise, I questioned several things that some of the employees of the city did or did not do in regards to their job. Okay. The issue with the basin, the stormwater basin. The issue with no stormwater easements for the emergency spillway, for the principal spillway where it was going. I made assessments about the, what your design assumptions were. Now, these are all simple things that the department that handles this should have been asking those questions. Yet, we asked for public records, we got nothing. So I can assume there is nothing. If we got nothing, there's nothing. Now, there is no way that without those questions being asked, that should have been passed through. It is going to be a cluster on Old Mill. Do you realize that? Do you live there? I go up that road and I get pushed off the side of the road by a truck every time they come up the road. I talk to county because I'm in the township. The county handles this. That's a 45-mile-an-hour road on that side. Do you realize they put an apron 150 foot wide? It's going to be a free-for-all going out onto Old Mill. Did anybody really think about what's happening here? Or did it just somehow fit the code? Now, I'm glad we brought up code because it definitely needs to be looked at. The code needs to be looked at. And how do you go about that? You do an audit. You do an audit, and maybe with the comprehensive plan, when that comes down the pike, you put a moratorium on any future development until you get this squared away. How can you keep doing development when you don't even know what code you're going by? You know, you can't. So you got to get that all squared away before you can go on with any more of this, because this is a prime example. I'm glad to see that they're in there doing some stormwater reclamation right now to get that site cleaned up a little bit before winter. But I'll tell you, it's just, I can't forget that. And I don't think anybody in this room will forget if that goes down, whatever the situation happens with Gumbo. What an apt name, Gumbo. Look it up and see what it means. No matter which way that goes, nobody's going to forget this issue. Nobody. Yeah. I'm going to let it go at that.
Thank you.
That's all we have this
Is that
evening.
it? Okay, then we move on to pending legislation. Ordinance 82, 2022. This is ordinance's third reading tonight, and it's the fixed asset policy, which we updated in 2015. The Finance Committee and councils discussed this, and there has been we're increasing the capitalization policy from $5,000 to $10,000 to better reflect current costs today. Are there any questions on 82, 2022? Thank you. Ordinance 89, 2022. This ordinance is to award a bid to Cintas for the uniform and mat services contract for the city. The total for the 3-year contract is $76,752. The reason for the suspension of the 3 meetings in the emergency are being requested is that to enter the agreement and start to service at its earliest date. Are there any questions on the Cintas? Okay. Resolution 90, 2022. This resolution allows for the transfer for the ownership of the service weapon for retired Detective Greg Konopsky. Any questions? Standard, we do this for everybody that retires that wants their weapon. Okay. Ordinance 91, 2022 is the ordinance is dedication for Whispering Woods Phase 3 subdivision. This is on its first reading with the request for a suspension at the end to go into emergency. You had residents, Ms. Labby's been out on that property, now that it's been required. I'm sure the mayor will have the engineering department look into that and see what needs to be cleaned up there. And again, I would imagine that there's still a bond there. Okay. Are there any other questions on 91, 2022?
So we are going to read that the first time, we're going to pass it tonight?
That was my question. If it's going to go 3 readings, do we need to?
No. So we're going to read it 3 times, and after 3 readings.
I saw the
Okay. We were going to read it. We're going to read it tonight. We'll read it 2 weeks. We'll read it again 2 weeks after that, and then as it passes, they wanted an emergency. So we should be able to read this tonight. Move forward with the investigation that you have on those parcels.
Okay.
Okay. We good?
That's fine. Yep.
Is there a way on legislation when it's presented first, that if it's going to say as an emergency, that we know that it's an emergency on its 3rd reading versus an emergency? Because when I read it as well, it said it was an emergency. How do I know if it's a
99.
3rd reading emergency? I mean, it's a good question. How do I know if it's a 3rd reading emergency or if I know it's an emergency for tonight? Is there a way that we can denote that so that way when I'm
adding a note to the agenda that makes it clear.
See what I'm saying? Because I thought the same thing that they did. Why we should pass on it until it was clarified that it's a 3rd reading emergency.
We have very few emergencies that get read 3 times and then passed on an emergency. We do it for the budget.
Right.
Other than that, I can't think of something that we commonly do that. And we do the budget because we usually have deadlines that need to get that. Ordinances have to wait 30 days unless you do them on the emergency.
Even more so a reason that if it's so rare to let us know.
Sure.
So-
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying.
Mr. Post, Mr. Vazana and I are actually working on a more in-depth thing explaining legislation and how things need to be moved forward with it. As we work through that, we'll be sure that we share that with you. In the meantime, we'll look for a temporary way of making sure you guys are notified.
Just an asterisk or somewhere just to let us know.
We can look into something.
We can put
Just
on the
anything,
agenda.
just so we know.
I asked
sure.
them the same thing today.
Did you?
Yes.
Because when I read that, I'm like, why does that need to be an emergency?
Then I looked at the memo and it didn't say.
It is a rarity, as Mr. Fury said, that we do a full 3 readings and then we ask for it to become effective immediately. But yeah, Shannon and I we've been working pretty hard on that lately to kind of just modernize all the processes for council and then provide education and training on that as well. So this won't just be one-on-one conversations. We're working right now and creating essentially handbooks, that the council can have, and then a training piece with myself and Ms. Collins that can be attached to that, where we can all get together in a public meeting and we can answer questions for you. And I think that's something that we'll continue to move forward throughout the years. Just always putting a premium on education and making sure we're all staying current on the many topics that are relevant to local government leaders.
Thank you.
All right, anything else on 91, 2022? 92, 2022, this ordinance is to amend the appropriations for 2 accounts. First is the sewer fund and increase it to $18,200 to allow for the replacement of the switchgear on the electrical grid for the backup power in event of an emergency outage. The second account is the service department account for the amount of $34,122 to allow for a vehicle to purchase for the market pricing. Further details are included in Ordinance 93, 2022. So we're doing a couple transfers so that there's money in accounts. Are there any questions on the transfers? Okay, so then we're going to go to 93, 2022, which is an ordinance to allow for the price increase of $34,121.48 for the upfitting of a service truck vehicle, which is approved in Ordinance 59, 2022. The new total for the truck, including the upfitting, is $135,535.41. Are there any questions on the ordinance to purchase the truck? Okay. Are there any miscellaneous? Any members? Okay. At this time, we'll adjourn the caucus meeting. We'll start the council meeting in 5 minutes. If you want to speak at the council meeting, please sign up at the podium. Thank you.